we're ready to go. So hello and welcome. We are just kicking off now. So what I've been doing, I've been working a lot on the city mode of the game. Let me just demonstrate that now. I've been doing a ton of work on the kind of, the best bit that I've been doing really is the kind of graphics and the high res. As you can see here, it's kind of looking really good. I'm really pleased with how it's looking. I've also got full screen mode in, so hopefully this will still work with Twitch. But yeah, we can see that it's now completely full screen, which is really cool. If it doesn't work with Twitch, then I'm sorry about that. But rest assured, it is actually full screen, so that's cool. So we can go back and forth from that, and it's also in Retina mode, which is kind of cool. Yeah, that has worked on Twitch. That's awesome. So I'm really pleased about that. Okay, so what I can do is just zoom through. In fact, I might just put it on full screen so I can demonstrate the game. If you haven't seen the game before, we are kind of doing some interesting, unique things. It's a space game. It's a 2D top-down shooter, but it's got a whole bunch of interesting stuff in it that hopefully will kind of set it apart from all the other 2D top-down shooters out there. Specifically, we create an entirely new history for the world every time we run it. So, for example, we can choose how old our character is going to be, and what will happen is that the game will run the history generation, which it's doing at the moment, and it will stop the history from running at the point at which the character is born. And you can choose which family you want to be a part of, which is pretty cool. So in this particular world, there are 23 possible families. Let's go for Aretha and Mariano Churley. They live on Asimov, which is a city on Mars, I think. Okay, so then there's not very much information about you when you start. This is a little bit placeholder, but kind of working on it here. But as you've got a whole bunch of stuff about your family, you can say who you took after, what things you were good at school, what things you were bad at school. So I'm just going to pick those for now. But you get a whole bunch of choices, and you can see you can choose to do any particular job at age 18 that you might kind of fancy. So you can enlist at Starfleet, you can do all sorts of things. I'm just going to hit freelance trader. As you can see, some interesting stuff is happening here. We've got some kind of sad stuff going on here. It looks like our sister has died when I was 6, and my mum died at the age of 9, and my brother died at the age of 10. Wow, that's pretty harsh. Oh, is it? Oh, I'm so sorry if the stream is lagging. It's possible that that's the case. I am only running in 20 frames a second at the moment. I might try and up that to see whether that makes a difference. Let me know whether or not this makes any difference. If I just roll it up to about 30. So, see if you can handle that. Is that any better? Let's see if that is any better. If it's worse, then we'll fix it. But if it's better, then we'll go with that. Okay, so when we actually start the game, this is the view that I've been working on the most recently. So we've got a particular city, and we've got a little character screen for us here. This is all the interesting information about us and all of our social relationships and our story. Each of the characters in the game have their own story. I suppose I could lower the bitrate. Yeah, okay, right, hang on. Doing this on the fly is never a good idea, but I can try a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, the bitrate is going through fine. Yeah, I think it may actually just be... Let's see. Yeah, I could try doing that, lowering the max rate. Let's see what happens. No, not using OBS. I'm using CocoSplit, and I'm using CamTwist. To be honest, this is a pretty slow computer, so that could be one of the reasons. It could be actually CPU lag. So sorry about that. Okay, I was demonstrating the game. So we've got the different things that we can use. We can go and visit here, different places. So, for example, we can go to the bank and actually borrow some money. So let's try and do that. Okay, so here are two of the people who can help us at the bank. Let's go for Missy Wolford. and ask her about how we can help her. Now, what are we good at? We're intelligent, so let's try and be impressive, and let's ask her for a loan. Ah, you appear to have made quite an impression. Awesome. So now I'm going to say, yes, I'll take that loan. Great. And then that allows me to hire a ship. In this game, you don't actually get a ship when you start. You have to figure out how to get one. So that either might be taking a career in some kind of army. I'm actually already an ensign, so I do have access to ships. Or you can borrow some money and loan one. It depends on what you want to do. So if we go back to having a look at the space station, resolution is 720p. So that's what's going on. So as you can see, we've got, I have dropped the bit rate down to 1000, so hopefully that will help. Okay, so now all the ships that landed here, these ships are all ships that you don't actually have any rights to at the moment, but we can hire one of them. They're not your ships. So we could say hire ship, and we could say, for example, let's hire Flashy Keith. I quite like the name Flashy Keith, that works for me. Brilliant. So now we have the ability to actually take off into that ship. So here's a very, very simple screen that I haven't finished yet. As you can see, lowering the bit rate again, I could try that. Let's see, let's go down to 800. Let's see if that helps. Okay, tell me if it's any better. Okay, so now you can launch your ship, and ta-da, this is what happens. Okay, so now we have a blank screen because I haven't finished this bit of the game yet. So we definitely want to move on from there and actually create something to do with stuff that we can actually see. So that's what I'm working on basically right now. So let me just shut the game down. Oops. Okay. Okay, so to be honest, I'm probably not going to screw around too much with. I don't think I need to drop the streaming application with GoCoast, but I think it just works on the fly, which is quite nice. So I'm going to leave it because it's running at the moment. I don't really want to restart the stream and break the stream for everybody. I'd prefer to kind of keep it running as we are at the moment. So thanks very much for your help, though. Appreciate that. I'm trying to get the stream looking nice. Okay, so what are we doing? So at the moment, we have a piece of code in the game controller, which is the code that's run when we launch a ship. So this is what happens. We close all of the GUI down, and we make sure we actually have a ship that we can work with. Obviously, we want some sort of transition, which we haven't done yet. And then what we want to do is basically change the camera. So the camera is just pointing, originally it points to the city, and we actually want to change that to, excuse me, to the actual ship that we are looking at so that we can follow the ship around. Then what we do is we find a couple of components. This is my entity component system. Basically, we look for the enterer, which contains the information about entities that can enter into enterable entities. So this is looking for the ship's enterer because we want to find which building they're in. And we also want to, and we do that because we want to find which planet's surface that building is on, so that we can find out the physics of the planet, and that shows us where actually we want to, go. This is a little bit of a waste because we actually already have in here. We already have the premises container in the camera target ID. So what we could do instead of doing that is planet ID. We could find which planet's surface, but we could also say, for example, we don't need to find the premises of the ship. We can just use the original state camera target ID. So we can actually do that before we actually change it. And then that gives us the planet spatial that we're on. So let's do this first. That'll be neater. So now what we're doing is just finding the physics of the planet, or the spatial information about the planet. Then we find our own spatial information about the ship, and then we set the position of the ship to be that spatial position of the planet, and then we add this thing to space. And now it should be adding it to the correct place. So let me just step through that code, making sure that that's working. Because I haven't actually checked this code yet. I've only just written this code just before the stream started. So let me just find out where that is. I'm not using Xcode to develop, and this is using Vim. I'm only using Xcode for debugging. It's just I find it a nicer interface than using GDB for debugging. Okay, right, so here we go. Let's just quickly generate another world. The world generation is using a fixed seed at the moment. I plan to add a text box onto this screen for a random seed so that you can play the same world as your mates. Haven't got quite that far yet. Okay, so we'll get exactly the same character as we did before, which is fine. Okay, that means that actually it's easy for me to drop in here and grab a ship. I should be able to just hire one. I don't need to borrow money because I've actually frigged my money to be enough to be able to hire a basic ship. Okay, so now we can go in here. I should be able to click launch, and now we hit this point in the code. Right, so it's a little bit of a long debug loop to get to that point. I need to start thinking about saving and loading games and things like that. That's not that hard to do with their current architecture. I just haven't done it yet. Okay, so now we find the spatial information for the planet. So we should have... Oh crap, did I actually rebuild the game? I'm not sure if I did. No, I didn't. Oh, that's the problem when you talk and you stream at the same time. Let's just quickly build the game. Working on that now. There we go. That's pretty slow. Normally it takes about 2 seconds to build the game. Let's just run it again. Ah, this is a part of the problem. I'm actually backing up at the moment. Yeah, don't back up. That might actually massively improve the streaming. That's quite possible. Let's see. Okay. Just fiddling with the streaming while that's building. Okay, that's generating. Up to 1,000. Okay, that's looking a bit better. Yeah. Okay, just building that. Okay. Right, let's hire that ship again. Make sure now that I've actually built the game, this might actually make a difference. So talk to Wilbert again. Don't know much about Wilbert. Don't know anything about him actually. I could make some small talk now, I better just hire a ship. The problem is it's so much fun just chatting to these guys. You chat briefly about the time Wilbert got to know their relative. You have made friends. Now that tells us that he's got a relative. Oh, a nephew. How interesting. So we now know a little bit about his story. Now this information, this is the interesting bit. This is information you didn't know before. And now you've found it out, you can then, it's like currency, you can use it to trade. Potentially if this was an embarrassing connection, you could dob this guy in and say, ha, he knows this guy. And then he would be in trouble with someone that he might be in trouble with, that kind of thing. And we don't know anything about this guy. No, hardly anything. No idea what his story is or any of that info. Interesting. Anyway, Wilbert Mail. Now we can't talk to him, he's bored with us. Oh, good. What happens here is his patience was low, but he's just about got patience enough for us to hire a ship from him, so that's good. Let's see. Great, so we've hired that ship. Go into the ship, hit launch, and now we're finally broken. Okay, mustn't get distracted by playing the game. That can be a bit of a problem. Okay, so we've got find spatial. We should be able to find that spatial. Spatial is just the physics information about the game. So this is entity 3 because it's one of the planets, so it's an early entity. It's a big planet. Obviously, it's got a big radius in meters. That's 2.4 kilometers, and its position is I think it's just faked at the moment. Yeah, 300. Haven't actually positioned these things in space yet. We'll need to do that soon. Okay, and then we have our own ship spatial, which you should be able to find. Yep, that's belonging to the ship that we've hired, the Keith ship. And then we should be able to add this to the space. Now I want to step through this code because it's relatively new. First we find the grid hash for this particular thing, which is 60,300. And then I want to just drop in here. Let's see. That gives me the slot. It's slot 2284 in the hash table. and then I just find that. Now there is already something there, and this is important because the planet exists in this slot. The way that I've done space is I've divided space into 500-meter grids. So each kind of cell in space, if you think of a massive table, each table cell is 500 meters by 500 meters. And I figured out that I can actually represent the entire solar system based on the address space of a 4-byte unsigned integer. If I have 4.2 billion 500 meters, that gives me 2.4, how much is it? Like 8 million kilometers or something square, which I can address, which allows me to basically have stuff anywhere in space I like. So I'm modeling the entire solar system space. I want it to be completely seamless so that if you did choose to, you could actually choose to fly from using conventional power, and you had enough fuel, you could fly from Earth to Mars or Earth to Jupiter if you wanted to. The chances of you doing that is very small because you're more likely to use a jump gate, but that is something that you can do. And there's going to be some interesting Easter eggs deep out into space as well, that I'm just kind of throwing there for people to find. Okay, so we've got this grid location, yeah, so that's good. And there should be an entity in it. Let's see if that's true. Yes. Look at that, entity number 3, which is the planet. That's the only thing that's in there at the moment because that's the only thing that's in space. Okay, so then we add that to space, so let's just double check so that it's not there already. And then we make sure that we've got space for it, which is great, and then we add it. So now this block should, this location I should say, should in theory have 2 entities in it, which will be my ship, that one, and the planet 3720. Great, so that's working fine. We haven't got removing and moving between 2 different grids at the moment. We're not in that kind of zone yet. And in fact, I need to think about what I need to add next. And then the next thing we do is we add we set the camera to be the ship ID. That's cool. So let's just keep running that. And if we go back to the game, yeah. So now we're looking at space. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't actually draw any of the entities, which isn't quite right. So we need to think about how to do that. So that is my next thing to do. Okay, so let's close the game. So let's see if we can draw something simple on the screen. Haven't done anything to do with this yet. This isn't probably going to work very well, but I'm just going to try and get something out. So at the moment, the piece of code that we've got just renders the background, as you can see, and we loop through close by things and render them, which we don't do. So what we do have here is our camera. So we should be able to say camera target ID. Let's see. Camera target ID is going to be the ship. So the ship will have some spatial information. Spatial equals camera target ID. We just need find spatial, don't we? State camera target ID. Okay, that gives us the physics, the physical information for the particular thing that we are on. So the ship that we are in space. So that means that in theory we could find the position that we want, which will be or just P, which will be spatial position P. Okay, now what we can do is we could potentially find, I'll just find the code for this, we could find the space grid location for this and make sure we've got stuff in there. So we could say space grid location equals find space grid location. So we have the state space. Now the question is, do we want to create a new one? The answer is no, we don't. If we pass an arena, memory arena here, it will actually allow us to create a new space location. If we don't pass an arena, then we don't actually create a new one. So now at this point I need to just assert location. And then I can say for location, and the location has entities in it. So we just need to loop through the entity list. Now I'm trying to think about the best way of doing that. Where else we loop through an entity list? We do our info blocks. Thinking about how to do that.